South Africa is heading nowhere. It's safe to say. We've 1 year into the government of national unity. There's a lot of voices on the outside pointing out the problems, but not a lot of action on the inside where the politicians are. And certainly one of those voices that is being heard the loudest is that of the leader of the United Independent Movement and regular internet buster, Mr. Neil de Beer. Neil, welcome back to the State of the Nation. It's been too long. How are you?
Yeah, you and I don't have interviews. We have great moments, Mike. So, yeah, I'm privileged to be back. The Sunday show with Chris and the team are reaching beyond. And there's only one reason. It's a team effort. But like you and your show, the people are hungry for the truth and the truth. And that's exactly what we deliver. No fear, favor. And I think that that's you and I and many other, we're the ones getting up now, and but always great to be with you. Thanks, Mike.
Well, Neil, let's hop straight in. As I said in the introduction, it's been a year of the government of national unity, and there's been some reflection, but South Africa doesn't seem a hell of a lot better off, other than we've got a government of national unity. We see an economy going nowhere. We see all sorts of other issues. How do you view the government of national unity and their performance over their first year?
Well, I think we need to unpack it unemotionally, if we can, although it drives you to absolute emotion. As I said, I don't know if you know, I was with SA Rugby for a couple of years, and I ended up on the management of the Springbok under-21 rugby team that won a World Cup in Argentina in 2005. The coach was Peter de Villiers, and I was part of that management. Very few people know it. And I remember when we were playing our 5 pool games, that every time we scored, we had to go back and tell them, don't clap too long. We've not yet beaten them. On the 80th minute or maybe more, we can clap all night. So when we look back at this year of the GNU, we must review it in the sense of, have we won some ground or have we lost? And taking everything into consideration, I'm sorry, Mike, we've not advanced. We've done a couple of tries and some of them have been denied. So let's go through it. I like unpacking a matter so that you and I and the viewer can understand where we are going and what we think. And that's also a good way to explain the dirty side, the ugly side, and that matter of politics. So we've had the GNU, and I broke it up into 5. I gave every segment 10 points. And those points I gave graciously, thorough thought, like I do, and here it is. Firstly, the country needs to look at its economy. Now, no doubt, I don't even think you and many that look even deeper will disagree with me when I must say that we don't even need a 1% growth rate. We're at about 0.9. We were supposed to be at 3. We are giving 25 million people in this country a grant, parcela. So in other words, we are the mother of 25 million people in this country, and seemingly the ANC is proud of it. They want to clap hands. Thirdly, we're still on the grey list because of our absolute incompetence of handling finances. The Minister of Finance is an idiot. He is an idiot. And the reason I call him an idiot, and if he wants to take me to court, the problem is he has to say why he's not, is that he firstly ran out of methodology to fund the fiscus. Then he dumped it on all of us, including the poor, which made me understand he doesn't know what VAT is. And then when he didn't get that right, he tried to push in the petrol price, which again he doesn't understand, affects food, which affects the poor. And then now his last little fanfare is last week at the IEC conference on monetary oversight. He mutes a suggestion that only a child will do, saying that, government should fund political parties. Now, I'm sorry, take all of that and even more. There's nearly zero FDI going on. There's no investor confidence, or conference, be it so. So 3 out of 10 for the economy. Number 2, safety security, Mike. Our murder rate still remains the largest nearly in the world. We are branded as a crime pariah. We are one of the murder capitals of the world. Funny enough, Cape Town is up there, which is shocking. And more people in our country die of murder than any of the top current 4 places recognized are at war. So, no, there's absolutely no damping down of crime. It's becoming more and more prevalent. And in the past week, we've seen more people die and more policemen shooting them. We have our opinion about that. But at the end of the day, the murder rate is the murder rate. So 2 on a scale of 10 for crime. Number 3, we have to sit back and say to ourselves, how are we looking currently at our confidence as a country, as South Africans? And if you look at what is happening to us, the abuse, the laws, the absolute attack on the freedom and the right of speech being marginalized, and the people at the top not having a clue what's happening to the people on the ground, they are so severely apart from each other. I would say that the confidence of South Africans are at a level 2. Then where do we stand as a power recognized in the world? Well, except for a couple of pariah countries that have no idea about democracy themselves and don't have that confidence, like North Korea. And I notice now the lines to Iran a little bit quiet. We don't have many friends at the top anymore because the top friends just told us to go to hell. And lastly, we've got to sit back, and on that scale, I would say we're also on a 2 of the 10. And then lastly, we've got to ask ourselves, does this country, in the state it has now with all the parties in the GNU, for the small little nyanya fights that they're attempting and periodical little squabbles they've got every 3 or 4 weeks, do they have a plan, Mike? In other words, does this country have a turnaround plan for the next 5 to 10 years? They've got a lot of paper, they've got a lot of programs, a lot of committees, a lot of investigations, but they don't have a workable plan. So on that score, 1 out of 10. So sorry, I'm not being emotional, I'm just being practical. Out of the 5, not 1 even hitting 5.
It's a crazy thing. Just to pick up in some order, you mentioned safety and security. South Africa took Israel to the International Court of Justice. They clearly didn't see the irony that more people are murdered every year than have been killed in Gaza. But that wasn't mentioned at the ICJ. It was mentioned in the Oval Office as a defense that there's not a white genocide on farmland. In actual fact, we kill everybody. And we should be quite proud of the fact that crime and murder is out of control. But it's obviously most distressing is on the economy. The economy can help a lot in just about everything, but there seems to be no particular plan here. And here one must look at these Government of National Unity partner parties that came in ostensibly as the economic hope for South Africa, the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and the PA. Those parties haven't been able to make an impact into any kind of economic legislation. What do you make of their impotence when it comes to the economy, Neil?
There's none. Mike, there's none. Sorry, they've got massive talk. They've got big G5 cannons. They've now pulled them all the way to the pavement. They've shown off the great armory. And when they had to fire, it was a blank. So we had this hype, we had this expectation, we had the kids all coming with popcorn and oras, and they were waiting for the big bang. And when it went bang, it went pip. boggerel. So I'm sorry to tell you that the massive march on rescuing South Africa's economy, defending capitalism, and tied to that, the increasing limitation of laws that are stopping us from being economically viable has just been zero. So I have an analogy. You cannot steer an oil tanker out of a harbor if you don't have a rudder. That captain can turn at that piece of wood. The boat, the ship is not shifting. It's just going one way, front or back. It's a rudderless ship. So if you go and you say to each other, the GNU's responsibility was to analyze, scrutinize, and subject this country to some form of barometer, and then make calculations to recalculate the South African ship to better, it's failed. In actual fact, it's hit the port 15, 13 times on its own accord. So we're sitting there, Mike, with an absolute leaderless ship, a rudderless ship, and we're ready to go, but the problem is we have no direction. It's like a Titanic, and everybody's trying to just shift the chairs on the deck. And I'm not being negative. I'm being positively in the sense of saying that positively we've been telling them they're murtu now for the past 6 months. And they don't listen. Now they want to come up with an atrocious plan of 700 million to go sit under tents and talk absolute cuck to the nation about what could we do to go forward. Is jy nou mal? What do you drink and what don't you drink? Because both sides, you're a stuff up. And that's my opinion. Straightforward. Take this national dialogue and use Vaseline.
Or not. Neil, when it comes to the government of national unity, let's just break it down. Because I'm trying to work out who the current status is helping. Who does this serve? Does it serve the ANC to have a country that's not going anywhere? Does it serve the Democratic Alliance? Who does it serve to have a government of national unity in name only, with no plan, with no economic growth, with no safety and security? I'm trying, because this is an intentional decision to take this thing. It's a bit like catching an insect and pulling the wings off. Right, that's what we've got with our government of national unity. And I'm trying to work out, who does this serve? Do you think it serves the ANC to have a government of national unity that's pretty useless?
What do you call a fly when you pull off its wings, Mike? A walk. The problem that you've got, a little bit of comedy. The problem that you've got is, let's unpack who is in the zoo. The ANC, whose clear objective is at 40 and who currently is trying to amend and keep it together, so that I hear the plan they have is that when the DA gets frustrated, the rest of the people in the GNU don't see any future but are there because of the blue lights and the pay and the power, is that they're going to say that in 2029, when certain things do work because the continual push of other people inside, nothing to do with the ANC, that they are going to turn around and say, well, we did it. I think that's one plan they've got. And we must not walk away from an ANC that does not have a devious plan. So the ANC's one shot is to work through the next 4 years, fight on every corner, internally and externally, and then in 2029, see what the chips are for the ANC, not the GNU. But Mike, before that, in 2027, you might have a loss of the ANC's participation in the GNU, because as you know, it is then their conference. And in my opinion, there's one singular faction fighting 4 factions to stay in the GNU. The rest want to get out and go, to the dark side. So the first tactic of the ANC is to try and make it alone back over 50. If not, they will be splintered and they will form, I would say, the prophets of doom, because we all know about it. It's just that we're wondering when and why. The DA got in there because of the DA's ideology of peace, the ideology of being moderate, of being a Democrat, and they are trying to keep this together because their word was, what about the alternative? And the alternative is shocking. So they got into a marriage they did not want to. Mike, it's terrible in there. It must be. Now, you've got John that's in the cabinet, and there's a massive debate now. Should John have accepted to be a minister and be the leader of the DA? And more we are seeing the DA crumbling, the DA taking shots, John taking shots and having to keep quiet for 50% of the time. We saw what happened with Donald. So I think the DA is in a very precarious position, and they are going to sit in court. And here's the thing, but you tell me, Mike, whom in Parliament in the DA, Parliament, putting Helen the wrecking ball outside that's effective, who gets up and moors every day, MK and the ANC and the EF? Have you seen anybody get up?
Yeah, look, it's not at leadership level. It is coming through at the secondary level in some of those committee meetings, which only you, me, and a handful of other people would be watching. They're doing some great work, and there seems to be a new energy there in tackling ministers. We saw some great action with the higher education minister and a few other people. So it's starting to come through, but certainly up at the top. John Steenhuisen looks very comfortable in his role as minister. He looks very comfortable, as does even Dean McPherson in the "Don't look me in the eye, I'm a minister" kind of thing. They seem to have taken to that quite smoothly. But some great work being done, I suppose, by people like Solly Malatsi, Saviwe Khwagube, as well as Leon Schreiber. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. But now, if you, because you're there and the DA seems to have locked themselves up in Cape Town and they seem to be leaving Gauteng to the wolves, if they called you in saying, Neil, everybody listens to you, so you must be quite smart. We want to hire you as a consultant, and we've got this burning question. Should we stay in the GNU or not? What would your advice be to the DA?
Get out. Because every single line of attack that they are doing at the current moment is suppressed by the ANC. And here's the other thing. If you go to Umtata or Kofi Mbaba or Willowvale and you go tell someone Leon Schreiber, and they ask. But if you say people's names like Cyril, Ronald Lamola, they know. So although it's great happening under the Potjiekos and it's burning, and you've got people like Liam that we'll talk about, because just as he was becoming a strikecraft, he was hijacked. And other people that sit like, it's a Dr. Berg, the guy from finance. He climbs in, he does his stuff, but he's alone. They do get their punches in, but that is at the lower echelon. And when it bubbles up, it's accepted as the DA's victory. So the DA machine, which is an effective machine, and one of the things I was very impressed always about is this blue machine, is that they've got to ensure that what they're doing and what they're escalating to do stays prominently in the public eye. But the problem you'll have is you serve at the behest of the president. Now, I don't know what is it, but you become gugu gaga when you stand and you get out of the car and you stand in front of a president. I've noticed it. One of the worst ones is Le Sufi. It's like he's an idiot when he's with the president because he just constantly and he's laughing at everything and he's gugu gaga. So you get people that can't handle that. And I'm sorry, most of the people become starstruck. He is the president, and that's it. So you don't need people that must be starstruck. You must have people that fight for the country. They're there to fight for us, Mike. They're not there to sit there and get accolades. It's like someone saying, I got a car and a steering. What? You're supposed to get a steering with a car. So we are starting to compliment and clap hands for people doing their work. And that's unacceptable being a civil servant. We pay tax, a few of us, and we're drowning. So, my advice to Helen and to John is we've got to stay in this for as long as we can keep the promise, not to the DA voter, but to the civil public, who's our people we need to fight for. And this is now not the first time. I think, personally, we should reevaluate where we are. We should look at our markers for 2026. Helen already declaring the first step out of the Western Cape, where she will attack Johannesburg to try and get it back, and not a bad thing. I think if you put Helen there, then we might get a turn, because, as you know, she's not going to take anything from anybody. I think that is the first battle zone the DA is going to go into. And as the elections grow, the animosity will grow, and then we'll see if they survive it. Gayton McKenzie is hanging on, but he's doing more speeches about God and about Liam than what he is about his planning for the next 5 years. And he's always in a tracksuit. Just because you are the Minister of Sport doesn't mean you need to wear a tracksuit every day, my opinion. But he's gaining ground. Gayton has got a following, and that's it. And Vryheidsfront, plus of Minus, they are currently in America talking to people about South Africans and telling them what their perspective is. This is now the third time people have gone there. I think Donald Trump is going to bring that F-bomb to us very soon, like he just did last night. And that's my opinion. We are better focused outside as a credible opposition than sitting in the midst of the enemy. And I told you, the ANC, which I know for 3 decades, Mike, the ANC has an unbelievable tactic to smother you, to drag you out, to take you to the deepest depths, and to kill you there. They are specialists in that, and that's what happened at the GNU.
The ANC use a tactic that, to go back to your rugby days, it was a wonderful thing that I heard. And that was, you remember, there was that big, strong prop, Tommy Loubser, who came from the Western Province, and he was a very strong scrummager. And apparently at Stellenbosch University, towards the end, old Doc Craven was standing on the side of the field. And, Tommy Loubser was never in great condition necessarily, but he was a fierce scrummager. And he called him over and he said, Tommy, hoekom stap jy om die rugbyveld? Because he was angry because Tommy Loubser was walking instead of running. And he looked at Doc Craven in the eye and he said, Moenie worry nie, Doc, net 'n paar scrums, dan stap hulle saam. Right? Being that a few scrums and the other guy also couldn't run. Yeah, and I think that's the tactic that the ANC uses. Yeah, so now it is so obvious. Yeah. Now, just before we leave the DA for a second, two other issues. One being they are now starting to warm up for their conference. And for the first time, the conference means quite a lot because they do have a taste of power. They do have a position. They seem to be potentially on the threshold of some growth if they manage it properly. And of course, there's some people that are saying that things might change. What are the tea leaves telling you with regards to the DA and the elective conference and what we should expect over the next, as that happens?
Well, John has agreed to go for the third time. That's worrying to me, not because of the man. I know the man. I have always been in support of him on many ways. The multi-party charter. But it is worrying in the sense of depth that they don't have, in their opinion, another leader. Now, with surprise, there are people that I think are popping up. The one is Jordan Hill-Lewis, who is the mayor of Cape Town. And again, I don't have to speak of opinion. I know him. I've had and I'll say it, privilege to work with him for the past 3 years as a councillor in the city. And I will tell you, if there was a person that was becoming a politician and moving to statesman, it is him. No air, no fair, and no reason for me to lie. He's not in the party that I support or I'm in. But I have a lot of respect for that man. So watch him. But he has clearly said that whilst John is in and John is running, he will not contest. Which as a person can understand. But as a change for the DA, it is worrying. I think there are other people subtly around. I think we did mention Dean. Dean McPherson is a character. He's a person that has his own following. He is in a very, very tight spot with the ministry that he's got. And I don't know, I will say something positive about him. He has withstood more than what we know within the ministry and within the accolades of threatening him and his life. And if you look at Dean, Dean seems to be here as a gentleman. He's not a person that will get into the scrum. But I must tell you, on 2 or 3 occasions, I had to sit back and I had to go, ooh, that was a bit of a thing. So I think Dean is in the pot. I think he's there. Helen has excused herself. I don't think Helen will go back to leadership. She's got her eye now on Joburg, and when Helen is focused, it's a telescope. It's now going to go there. So I don't know, those are the people that are poking at me, but unfortunately, they are also going to run into the scenario of having color. They've have been accused of not being a progressive party, in having a leader that stays, that is of black or colored or Indian. And I think that will also play a part in that sense, including gender. So very interesting scenario, but my opinion, if you want me to call it today, John will take it.
You mentioned the DA and the issue around representativity and relatability to the masses of the voters. They have been seemingly blindsided by Gayton McKenzie and the Patriotic Alliance appealing to coloured voters, especially on the lower end of the economic scale. And then Gayton McKenzie seems to have pulled off a little coup by getting Liam Jacobs to jump ship from the DA to the Patriotic Alliance. Now, we both know Liam. He's a fireball. He's a guy who's very charismatic. What do you think of his move?
I must tell you, this was not done in a night. You don't do a change like that in a night. This was planned. This was orchestrated, in my opinion. And it was done in the depth and the deeds of night. Sounds like a real Harry Potter trilogy. Suddenly, come up. Yet just a couple of hours before, he was basically calling Gayton McKenzie a dictator. And he was also hedging on the fact that they're corrupt and that there's nepotism. I mean, he shook that committee on probably a couple of the insults that, is the lowest that you can go. And then the next day he's in a green tracksuit. So, we have to read a lot in it. We have to now listen, by the way, which I'm doing, to what he's saying now. The stuff he's bringing out. His little détente with a whip, that he had a discussion with and was one of the reasons he left. The thing that now his mother was every day crying because he was with a party that did not allow him to be himself. So I think a little bit more of the insider stuff is coming out, Mike, in the next 2-3 weeks, because I think they are going to suck Leon out of every piece of dirty for the next 3 to 4 weeks. I don't know if this was a good move for Leon, because not a racial jump, not a move, but if you look at the DA and the growth and the positioning, I think he would have been better suited to stay his course, do change from inside, and be the rising star that you and I know he is in talent. So, very surprising, but I don't think the last person that's going to jump ship
Yeah, and of course it's going to put a lot more mud that might stick on the DA, and whether it's true or not, as being this party that's intolerant to minorities, and they don't see any, well, to majorities for heaven's sakes, and they don't see a future in the party.
Mike, the battle lines are drawn. And I'm telling you, there are three places where this battle is going to take place next year. KZN, Western Cape, and Gauteng. That's the battlefields. May I call it the main battlefields? Because Ekurhuleni, I don't think the DA is strong enough there. They're looking for a candidate. But for a fact, Tshwane and Joburg, I can tell you now they're going for. 100% the DA is going to get up there. In the Western Cape, may I call it, there's something coming up, and that's called the Coloured Revolution. We've never seen it like it is. We have never seen it be so prevalent and on the books, Mike, as it is. And there's two parties. One is called the NCC, with a guy called Fadil Adams, and one is Gayton McKenzie and the PA. If those two combine, even if they don't work together, but they have a movement where their strategy is to take wards and to attack, then I am very sure the DA knows about it. Because if they start hammering out the municipalities, I delivered the strategy of the PA, and funny enough, Gayton recognized it. He said I was right. And that is that they first go for the outlining areas on the coastal lines, the George, the Knysna, the Mossel Bay, where he was yesterday, and then Saldanha, Langebaan, and that area. So he first surrounds the coastal areas, then comes down to the Beaufort West, and his final attack is on the metro. He's going to use the same tactic, but this time, let me tell you, he's going to have more money and he's going to have more support. So the DA has a fight on them like you cannot believe. And then, you've got the chirpers, the EFF and the ANC, that won't do much in the Western Cape, but they will definitely supply the other two to cause damage.
And, given the DA's record, I've been unbelievably critical of their lack of fight when there's a fight to be had. I watched them capitulate in Johannesburg 3 times. I watched them capitulate in Tshwane, where they sent no support to Cilliers Brink as he was being attacked. I don't see them supporting those outlying areas in the Western Cape. So they need a change of tactic or an awakening of some description. Which brings us to...
they need me. They need me.
Sorry? They do need
me.
Yeah.
They need a wrecking ball that will go in there and that knows MK, their DNA, that will go into the parliament, look at MK and go, who the hell are you, children? Where did you get your uniform from? Pep. Because I am an MK veteran, as you know. So the first thing is destroy them from the bottom down. The second one is, I know every shenanigan of the people sitting in those ANC benches. I was with them for 25 years. Ek sal vir hulle bliksem. And then the EFF, bring them probably a sweetie every third day. Maar hulle kak sal ek ook nie vat nie. So your problem is there's no one that knows, Mike, that is in politics and that is currently a politician that served both sides like I have, that know them. So your problem, I'll say this again and again and again. Who's their fireball? Who do they take to war? Who do they say, okay, Neil, unleash, slaan hulle? Because we agree, we can't destroy MK, we can't take out the ANC, and Julius is doing this to himself. That's not the strategy, Mike. The strategy is isolate and take out one by one. So focus on one, charge that person, and make sure you've got a team of prosecution around that person and lock that person up. Shoot, he's gone. So that's my strategy. And I say this every Sunday, they are all over. The red dots on these buck are everywhere, except that the NPA and the people that are in the system don't have the balls to get up and lock up a vice president, to lock up a president, they don't have it. So until we don't grow some, the people out there are going to sit there and have these discussions and go after you release this one. Ja, hy's reg, die ou man, die mal mens. Can't say who's more bold than the other. I'm the bolder one. So I'll tell you straight, Mike, if they don't have this, they're going to lose. Now is no longer more the time for speeches like Churchill. We need a fighter. It's not me. I know I would like to. The fact is, I am not in there. I am not part of Parliament, but God knows, Mike, you and I would do more tantamount damage in truth in that Parliament than what we've got in the 400. Just my humble opinion.
Yeah, look, I've raised this point many times about Gauteng, where I've questioned whether they've got the stomach for the fight in Gauteng, because it's dirty politics up here, and you need that fireball if you're going to make real inroads into Gauteng. And you can see it by the concern that everybody on the ANC benches showed for the Helen Zille announcement as being mayor, because she is the one person that will take the fight to them, which is so desperately needed. You know, I mean, I must admit, I felt very sorry for first Mpho Palazzi when she was fighting for her life as mayor here in Johannesburg, and then later Cilliers Brink in Tshwane, and he got no support from head office. Those leadership was completely absent. But anyway, let's move on to, you mentioned already that there's a big fight looming, and the big fish still remains the ANC. A big fish, it might be declining, but it's still going to be the biggest fish after the next election. It looks like, because there's no one single party that's going to overtake them. But yet we know that there's going to be a leadership struggle of note. Now, for starters, we've got a lot of rumors swirling around Patrice Motsepe. We know that Paul Mashatile has already announced himself, and there's one or two others out there, but that seems to be the field. Lessufi, but Lessufi is not even popular in Gauteng, so I don't know if that one has much many legs. So I suppose you can start off by ruling them out. Do you think Lessufi has a legitimate chance of becoming leader?
I think Lessufi is one of those clowns that you move around silently. You put him down, he does his thing, and then you remove him because he doesn't know where he is and what he's doing. But he has got people that believe that the clown can supply them a streetwise too. So I always look at, is it the guy or is it the supporter that charts? Now, Mike, I know presidencies. I understand power. I have been in the position of protecting power and at sometimes taking down power. I understand military objective. I understand the skullduggery side of politics. People say, but Neil, you've only been a politician for 4. Yeah, but I have been in and out of government on several occasions as an advisor. So I am not naive as to what happens. And most of it, I served within the defense and intelligence side. So it's a different world. People don't have a clue. It's not a president that runs a country. It's people behind him, around him, that have got vested interests. So you first got to isolate. Cyril can no longer go on. He has to finish his term. But the question is, will he survive? So that is a prominent question after the 27th conference. Will he survive or will they remove him? So that's important. And at this current moment, looking at Patrice, if Patrice comes in, it is clear that that is Cyril's stooge. Because his family, alles hy aangetring. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, if you walk in the Union building, maybe you'll find a couple of more Matsepes. I am not sure. But at this current moment, they're not doing too badly in the halls of power. So he's there. You know, people are going to say, but he's a businessman, like they said with Cyril, and he's going to bring the economy to a total turn. Disappointment. But he's there. And you can't not recognize that. He is. But I don't find him a person that's verbal. You know, he might be a strong character, but what I know of him, he's not a massive leader. He's a silent guy that does his thing as a businessman. But let me quickly tell you, Mike, running a board of companies where you're the owner and running a country is two absolute different things. So he is there. Paul Mashatile, again, another scandal broken this week, one of many tied to the lotto through. That's still to be unbundled by us this week. But his defense at the moment is he's the vice president. He doesn't allot the lotto contract. Dom. We know that. We know that with the Guptas. We know that with the Sheikhs. So we are not ignorant to that. So Paul Mashatile has a lot still to answer for, and it's not going to go away as the presidential things hot up. Then you've got this fumbling idiot, Mr. Fikile Mbalula, who actually thinks that he has aspirations. I mean, this person couldn't get the police right and fumbled with sport. Yo. And now, you've got Lesofie, as I said, and I've silently heard about a month ago the name of Mchunu, the Minister of Police, also saying a couple of things that made our eyes go open. So there's the very fairy. I think out of all of them, you have to have their pros and cons, do your SWOT analysis. But I don't know. What we have now must change, and what we are going to get, we pray.
Yeah, well, I'm actually prepared to make a little prediction here, Neil. I'm going to go with Patrice Motsepe, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to go with the fact that with Iran being in trouble, where is the ANC going to get their money from? And they need money desperately, as we know. There's a few sort of, there's still a bit of state capture, as we know, through Chancellor House and some of the other trusts where they get some money in. But, their Russian and Iranian money is now at risk. I don't think they're going to be getting it back. They're going to need money, and here is potentially money to keep the party afloat, or else they're not going to make it to the election. And I think he's the guy that represents money, and we know how important that is. The case against Mashatile has already started. We know, with everything coming to light, quite clearly it's coordinated. They're using some of the big media houses that are giving, have leak after leak. It's worse than the water pipes in Johannesburg. And so I get the feeling that by the time they get to the conference, the Mashatile camp will be so beaten down. In my opinion, Lesofie is not even that popular here in Gauteng. Otherwise, he wouldn't have, he also led them to a 16% decline in the last election. So it's not like he's got some kind of power base. So I got a feeling that in the absence of anybody delivering a power base, Mashatile has never been overly popular. It's not like he can deliver Gauteng. At least you could say that Cyril can deliver Limpopo, just like Thabo Mbeki could deliver Eastern Cape, and Zuma could deliver KZN. I think all of those power blocks are gone, and the desperate thing that they're going to need is going to be money, and Patrice comes in with the money, and Cyril gets to see out his term. To me, it's all neat and tidy, and you put a bow on it, and that's the way I see it being played out. So there you go. That's my reading of the situation. Whether he'll be good or not, heaven alone knows. We'll have to wait and see. But that's the way I see it playing out. I don't know what you think of that.
I'll put my chips behind you.
Okay. Well, let's have a...
Also, Mike, sorry. He is the most untainted that we know of. I mean, if you look at the histories, he is the most untainted. And at this current moment, if that is the judgment, you are not far wrong.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Some fascinating insights from the one and only Neil de Beer. Slightly unstable line from a weather-beaten Western Cape. We'll get Neil back on soon so that we can get more of his views and bring them to you here on the State of the Nation. Just remember, this is brought to you by Pace Car Rental. Use them. Use our code SONA to get a discount. Subscribe to the State of the Nation, and we'll see you again on the channel. Thank you so much for joining us today.